January 7th, last Sunday, was the kickoff of the 2024 Commoner Crawl Series here in Portland, Oregon, USA. It was our first chance to get competitive Commoner in after the December 18th BNR announcement, so I was excited to see how it would go. So today I'm here with the top 4 deck lists from the event, and that's right, an Icelander still took it down on a full sweep. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my flesh and blood commoner folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando, and go again, a fabulous cast. Thanks for checking in for today's event recap from Sundays, this last Sunday's Commoner Crawl event to kick off 2024. Early in the year, we did it at Zeugel House Brewing. And basically their deal is if you sit in this one specific common area, you can get a big old mug for $7 full of beer. So it was a good time. We sat at specific tables and played Fab and did what we were supposed to do. So great time. And I do want to give a shout out to Kevin. It was Kevin's birthday, right? So for those of you who are in the area, everybody loves Kevin, right? Who doesn't love Kevin? So nice belated or happy belated birthday, Kevin. Thanks for being who you are and for being a pillar of awesomeness in our community. All right, so what I have here are the top 4 players from the event. So you see, that's right, myself in there. We've all got our big, well, 3 of us have our big mugs in there. So from left to right, you have myself, you have Adam Hill, who took it down on Icelander in the green shirt there, the light green shirt, I should say. We have Dylan Dart, he was on Aria as well. He took 2nd place. And then that's right, that's a Jesse Valdez, none other than the Jesse Valdez. He ended up playing he showed up with his Ira list. And he's like, I don't want to play this. Can I borrow somebody's deck? So I gave him my Bravo Pump and Thump list. And that's right, he's a good player. Had never seen the deck before, took it to I think he got 4th. I think I was 3rd, Dylan was 2nd. I actually don't remember who was 3rd or 4th, but either way, we all went 3-1 except for Adam, who took the full sweep. So let's go ahead and go right into Adam's deck. So on a pretty traditional Icelander list, but there's actually some cool stuff in here that I'll be honest was surprising to me. So you see Wounded Bull and you see Scar for a Scar there, right? I want to point out, this is why the little things like this is why Adam rocks, right? Not only did he lay his cards out for us, he did it alphabetical from top to bottom to make it easier for me to build the list. The guy freaking, like, the little details, right? So shout out, Adam. Not only are you awesome for winning, you're awesome for doing that and saving me a ton of time in getting the list put into, and that's right, folks. The lists are below. I'm sure you've already seen them. All right, but yes, Wounded Bull and Scar for a Scar. So pretty standard stuff there, but he's got Red Arctic Incarceration that definitely shut. So I played Adam first round, and he shut me down pretty hard. I was on Ira, as I mentioned. And Arctic Incarceration just kind of turns your turn off, right? Aether Hail, Aether, Ice, Bane, Rainbow, because that card's amazing, especially if you only have AB2 like I did. I was trying something and it didn't work. Then he has Polar Cap, which is a little surprising of a card to me, or not surprising, but it's one that like I don't play in my list. So it was nice to see that working for him. Sync Blue, of course, and then Snapbacks. Pretty good. And then the only yellows in the deck being Aether Ice Vein on the Rainbow. On the blues, going top down, he has Aether Hail, Aether Ice Vein, of course, Arctic Incarceration blue, no doubt there. He is playing Brain Freeze. Brain Freeze is one that I've actually dropped recently because it's not a ice card. It is just an elemental card. But he has that in there, and it did work for him. Cold Snap, of course, from Arsenal gives you a card draw, which is pretty dirty. Frosting, of course, it's a staple. Blue Ice Bolts ×2. Polar Blast ×2. Do not pay the 1 for the Dominate on their turn, or on your turn, I should say. Winter's Bite, and then Winter's Grasp. I do like the Winter's Grasp include. It just, it's there if you need it. Okay, and then he does have in his sideboard, the Glare's kind of blank on the 1 out, but he has 2 Oasis Respite Reds, and then he has 1 Ice Bolt Red. That's actually become pretty standard in a lot of the commoner lists we've seen. And then for the loadout, of course, he's running the Moon. He's not running Crucible or anything like that as a backup. He's just straight on Moon. Ironhide Helmet, right? Because again, you're paying for something, right? It gives you the 1 floating, so you can block for 2 effectively for free with the blue pitch. Mage Master Boot, Spellfire Cloak for the extra data, and then Goliath Gauntlets. And he was running AB2 at Hood and Gloves. All right, so that's his list there, and you see that pretty sweet signed Icelander, right? And that's he pulled that from a case pull, so pretty hot. All right, moving into Dylan's list, Dylan Dart's IRL lists. So a funny story here. Dylan lost a card at some point during the tournament. I believe it was a wax on. And then I think later he might have lost another one. So sometimes that's how Commoner Call goes. I don't know if he ended up finding them. I would assume he did, but it was just kind of funny. Like everyone's looking for a card and like, I don't know. So either way, you will see in the list below that until he gets back to me and tells me what the card was, it's actually missing one card. So I will get that fixed as soon as I can. Okay, but disclaimer, that's why it's not necessarily complete. Right, so for the loadout, again, nothing surprising there. He is playing AB3, which is a much better decision than what I did. So he's on Hood Gloves and Tide Flippers. Then he's on Kodachi's Vest of the First Fist, Snappies, Breaking Scales, and then the crazy good Ninja Mask. So what's interesting about this deck, very different from mine, which is very cool. You're going to see two very different decks today. You look at that big stack there, second to the right. That is a stack of D-Reacts. You see Yellow Fates, Yellow Sinks, Springboard Somersault. So he is straight up on a fatigue set up your combo plan. Okay, and not necessarily fatigue as much, but it'll certainly get her done. Okay, but you think about it, those are all zeros. They can all stab, and they all block pretty well. So actually, I don't hate it. And then you see he's on the Surging Whelming, right, to try and put pressure on there, and of course on Whirling Mist Blossom. So that's very interesting because all of those force blocks, unless you want to just get thwomped, right? So all those force blocks, and then he's got a bunch of like utility block cards. You don't see Yellow Sinks and Yellow Fates very often, right? But they worked for him. He did very well. This is a similar deck to one he played a couple weeks back, which also trounced my Bravo deck pretty hard. Okay, into the meat of the deck, Bittering Thorns, Critical Strike, Brutal Assault, kind of staples there. Obviously, Soulbead Strike Red is a staple there as well. He's playing one Torrent of Tempo. And then you see in his sideboard, he has one Razor Reflex and one Wounding Blow to pull in. And that's a Wounding Blow Red, I should point out, right? Because Wounding Blow Blue is also kind of a commoner staple in Kodachi decks. Which, again, going into blue to lead that off, 2 Wounding Blows, 2 Soulbead Strikes. He is playing Blue Whelming, which makes complete sense. Blocks 3, has combo, does the thing with Surging. He has 2 Pouncing She, and then 1 Rising Knee Thrust. Okay, so he's a little lower on blues than would be a normal deck, but again, he's got a lot of yellow zeros, right, which in many cases can do what he needs it to do. All right, so Dylan, thanks for sharing that deck with us, and nice performance, pulling down second place. Right, we then move into, well, just for sake of breaking it up, we'll go into the Pump and Thump Bravo deck. So this is very similar to a deck that I covered probably November time frame. It was kind of after the TCC box dropped on Pump, and the idea being to come in really big with Thump, right? Make it dominate, hit big, and then you can save the money anyway. You can go back and see that video if you want. This is that list for the most part, except that I was playing Warmongers because I didn't have the TCC box at the time. I do now have the TCC box, but I wasn't playing this deck that day, so I hadn't thrown it in and updated it. So when you went to borrow it, that's so you can assume in your head, like if you're trying to build your own deck, Earthlore Empowerment is Warmongers, okay, in terms of that. So we have Cartilage Crush full set, well, not full set, but red-blue, right, which makes, that's a Bravo full set, let's be honest. So Cartilage Crush the Weak. Okay, now do remember the blues are not poppers there. We have Crush Confidence, also the same state where it's not, the blues aren't poppers. We have Pummel Red, and then Earthlore Empowerment. Come to Fight is a big part of this deck. It works really well off of a blue with Bravo's Dominate ability. Not necessarily into Thump. It actually works better with the others if you're going to dominate it. Okay, we have Choke Slam Red-Blue. We have Thump Red-Blue. We have Wounded Bull Red. Again, it's just a good 3/7, sometimes a 3/8. It's one of the few cards in here that doesn't block for 2, but it does what you need it to do. All right. We then have kind of the trifecta, where the other 2 of the trifecta, Choke Slam Blue being one of them, which Debilitate Buckling Blow. They're the other blue 6 poppers. Oasis Respite, Unmovable is kind of a staple in this. And then, of course, Macho Grande, like little expensive, but it comes in with the onboard Dominate. Very, very nice. And then Fate Sync. So exactly what you'd expect to see out of a Bravo deck. The loadout, as I mentioned above, I run a little heavier loadout than most others do. So I'm on both. I have both options for AB. I have AB3 here. I have the Helm. I have Anathos. I have the Titan's Fist and the Steel Blade. And then Goliath Gauntlets, the Cross Strap. And then Quelling Slippers is my choice. Again, this was left over from previous when Fi and Chane had not yet been kneecapped. So that's why that was in there. But it actually does okay even against Aria, right? You can pitch a blue and kind of take a bunch of hits. So don't hate it. Not a horrible choice. But now that I have Civic Steps, we might try that and see how it goes, because it seems there's a lot of go again in the format, or it doesn't matter. So probably end up trying Civic Steps in that as well. All right, so Jesse, congratulations for your placement in the tournament, and nicely done. Right, last up is my Ira deck. So this is, again, a very different build than what Dylan is doing. It's kind of my own take on Jesse Valdez's Break the Chain Beatdown in kind of a certain way. But there's a card that I think a lot of people have been forgetting is out there, and it's kind of the, Ira baby Razor Reflex. It only works on a 2 or less, but Whirling Mist Blossom is a 2. So that was kind of the take here, is the card Short and Sharp. So I did run 4 attack reactions. That was kind of a test I was running. I think it worked fine. There were a couple of times I got burned by not having like a 3 block in hand. So that was a good note. But we're looking at Sync and Fate red, Torrent of Tempo red, of course, Whirling Mist Blossom, Leg Tap for a 1/4 goes. We have, again, the 4 attack reactions I mentioned. Brutal Assault and Stony Wootenhog. Brutal Assault is main deck. Stony Wootenhog is in the sideboard in case you need it for poppers, which is, again, a slight difference between like the Beat the Chain Beatdown or Break the Chain Beatdown. I do have red and blue Soulbead Strike. I have Salt the Wound, and I'm running Rising Knee, Thrust red and blue because, again, of the Leg Tap is the line I chose to play here. Going then right to left, we have Bittering Thorns, 2 copies of Flying Kick. I think probably 1 is the right call with the other 2 6s that I'm playing. But that's what I landed on this time, and I think that's probably the slot I need to play around with. I have 2 copies of Head Jab and then 2 copies of 1/2 Punch. Again, the Head Jab's only a 2, the 1/2 Punch is a 3 combo block. But if you can somehow pair them up together like in-game, because a lot of times your blues end up in-game, so kind of sliding it in there, again, it's only coming in for 1, probably not going to hit. More of like a Benji play probably. But, they're there and it does things. Soulbead Strike is a really good, we already talked about how that was a staple. Rising Knee I already talked about. I did go with Whisper of the Oracle. You could really run any combo 0/3 if you wanted to, anything else. I feel that I was right on the blues. I was afraid I was running in with maybe too many blues and I needed to cut 1. And, the extra blues felt really good in the Icelander game to keep me in the game. So there is that. But, maybe one of them goes in the sideboard. Maybe I play something with Flying Kick. I think those are maybe the iterations on the deck next. And then lastly, we have Critical Strike. Again, very common to see, no pun intended, to see that in the commoner world. Right, so those are the decks. Again, I had a great time as normal. We do not yet have Commoner Crawl February scheduled. I would like to get February and March both on the calendar, kind of tentatively. February, I think, is going to be interesting to schedule around because of the Heavy Hitters release. So we'll want to do that, ideally, I would think, later in the month so we can kind of digest Heavy Hitters and maybe get some new stuff at the tournament. And that should be really fun to go through. So anyway, that's a great recap. Thank you, everyone, for coming out again, right? Anthony here, we had a lot of fun. Anthony and I got to play. Sean and I got to play. He was rolling KO, and sometimes he was not rolling with KO. So that's how it goes sometimes. But again, just a really good time all the way around. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks again for checking in. If nothing else, folks, go Commando.